The sirens wailed across the empty morning streets of Manhattan, echoing like cries of fate through the glass towers. Inside a top-floor hospital room, a little blonde girl named Sophie Langford lay still, her pink pajamas looking too innocent for a world so cruel. Machines beeped beside her like fading heartbeats, each one counting down the last few hours of her life. Her father, billionaire architect Richard Langford, stood at the window, staring at the skyline he had built, the same skyline that now mocked him. For the first time in his life, all his power, all his money, all his influence meant nothing. Doctors had said the words that shattered his world. 3 days. That's all she has. If you believe kindness still has the power to heal hearts, if you believe in miracles born from the most unexpected places, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Untold Stories 0.4, because what happened next will remind you that sometimes the poorest hands carry the richest hearts. Richard had bought every hope money could buy, specialists from Germany, treatments from Japan, even experimental therapies from Switzerland. Nothing worked. Sophie's condition, a rare immune disorder, had reached a point where her body rejected every medicine. On the 3rd day, when dawn spilled through the curtains, Richard felt his world caving in. He couldn't bear to stay inside that sterile room anymore. He left the hospital and walked aimlessly into the city, suit wrinkled, tie forgotten, mind numb. That's when he saw them. A small barefoot boy stood in the middle of the street, his clothes torn and dusty, holding the hand of a little girl in pink pajamas beside a black wheelchair. The girl's pale hair caught the morning light, and for a split second, Richard froze. She looked like Sophie, same small hands, same tired gentleness in her eyes. But it wasn't her. This girl was smiling, and the boy, he looked like life itself. Dirty knees, wild curls, and the brightest eyes you could imagine. He was showing her something, making her laugh as if the world around them didn't exist. Behind them, a woman in a blue dress, clutching her head, shocked that these 2 children stood fearlessly in the middle of a busy city street. Richard rushed forward, grabbing the wheelchair and pulling them to safety as a taxi honked furiously nearby. The children stumbled to the sidewalk, the boy still holding the girl's hands protectively. Richard's breath came hard, his heart pounding. But when he looked into that boy's eyes, something inside him shifted. There was no fear, no guilt, only calm kindness, as if this boy had seen worse and survived it all. The boy's name was Noah, and he lived on the streets. He didn't beg, he didn't steal, he helped. He pushed old wheelchairs, carried groceries, and sang in the subways for coins. The woman nearby, Grace, ran a small community shelter, and Sophie, the little girl, was one of the children she looked after. Richard listened as Grace explained how Noah had found Sophie a few weeks ago near the hospital, sitting alone, crying because the nurses said she couldn't go home anymore. He had brought her back to the shelter, convinced her to smile, made her eat, and told her stories about stars that healed people. Richard couldn't understand. His daughter was dying upstairs in a hospital bed, surrounded by every comfort possible. And here was this homeless boy keeping another sick child alive with nothing but laughter. He went back to the hospital that night, haunted by Noah's words, "Sometimes you just need someone to believe you'll get better." The next morning, Richard did something unthinkable. He brought Noah to see his daughter. The doctors protested. The nurses frowned, but Richard insisted. Sophie lay pale and weak, her tiny body too fragile even for her own heartbeat. Noah walked up to her slowly, holding out a wilted flower he had picked from the sidewalk. "Hi," he whispered. "I met a girl just like you. She smiles even when it hurts. You should try it. It scares the sickness." For the first time in days, Sophie smiled. From that moment, something began to change. Noah came every morning, barefoot and beaming, with little treasures he found, a feather, a pebble, a drawing he made with broken crayons. He told Sophie stories about the invisible garden, a magical place where every sick kid plants a flower when they smile, and when they laugh, it blooms in real life. Nurses noticed Sophie's oxygen levels rising slightly. Her color returned. The monitors stopped screaming and began whispering hope. Richard watched this miracle unfold with disbelief. He realized Noah wasn't healing her with medicine. He was healing her with connection, with love that didn't expect anything in return. The hospital staff, once skeptical, began letting Noah stay longer. Sophie's laughter started echoing down the sterile corridors, and the other children in the ward began smiling, too. By the end of the week, long after the 3 days were gone, Sophie's condition had stabilized. The doctors couldn't explain it. They called it spontaneous remission. But Richard knew what it was. It was faith, something he had long abandoned. He broke down in tears as Sophie hugged Noah goodbye. She told him she wanted to walk someday to chase the birds he talked about. Richard adopted Noah soon after, giving him a home, education, and a new chance at life. But Noah remained the same humble soul, often found helping in shelters, bringing toys to sick kids, and visiting the same hospital wing where Sophie once lay dying. Years later, Sophie grew strong enough to walk again. One sunny afternoon, she stood at a charity event beside her father and brother, the once homeless boy who saved her life. She handed him a small flower and whispered, "I kept it alive for your invisible garden." Tears filled Noah's eyes as he realized it was the same wilted flower he had once given her in the hospital, now pressed, framed, and kept safe all these years. That day, when Sophie stepped up to the stage to thank the donors, she didn't talk about her illness or her father's wealth. She spoke about Noah, about how sometimes miracles don't come wrapped in science or gold, but in the quiet kindness of a barefoot boy who refuses to give up on hope. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Untold Stories 0.4, because stories like this remind the world that humanity is still alive in the smallest acts of love. And before we end, tell us in the comments, would you believe in a miracle if it came from someone who had nothing? Because sometimes it's the ones who have lost everything who end up saving us all.